Hello everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Joe.
This is my dad. Hi, Dad.
Hi, son.
In 4 years, I've never had my dad on the program. I have been really wanting to do this. Thanks very much for being here, Dad.
Hey, you're welcome.
It's really good to see you and have you on the show.
This will be fun.
This will be lots of fun. Basically, what we're going to do today is we're just going to reminisce a little bit. I wanted all you guys to get to meet my dad. So here he is.
Hi.
My dad. Dad, you didn't wear a superhero shirt?
I did not. I didn't know we were going to do this, but I am wearing a flag.
Yeah, Dad's a big Captain America fan, so, at least he's got a flag. How many Captain America shirts do you have? Just the one?
One.
Yeah.
I have one.
I know you've had other ones, but yeah. So anyway,
that was my hero growing up.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about like Dad's past with geeky stuff, and then me growing up, and kind of just how Dad inspired me with geeky stuff. I've said on the show a lot that Dad bought me my first comic book, and that Dad took me to my first superhero movie. Actually, my first movie ever was a superhero film, appropriately, Superman 4, which was, I guess, fun when I was tiny.
I actually liked it, but anyway.
Yeah, but how long has it been since you've seen it?
I've seen that about 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Again. Uh-huh.
Did it still hold up for you?
It held up for me, but I think...
No, because of nostalgia, right?
Yes. I think it was because Jay was really young, and we sat on the front row of the theater. It was on a Monday night because every Monday night at that time, Jay and I had guys' night out, where I would take, my wife would work or whatever, and I'd take Jay out. And Jay sat on the very front row, and he was looking up at this large screen, and I bought him a Coke and a popcorn, and at the end of the movie, he was so mesmerized that he never touched his popcorn or a soda. And I knew I had done something terribly wrong.
And of course, I have no recollection of that. And it was only a few years ago that you told me that story, and I was like,
"That's true."
And I was like, "Wow, I did not know that the first thing I ever saw was a superhero movie." I mean, like the first thing superhero I remember is Batman, '89. I mean, I remember you bringing me home a Batman T-shirt.
Yes.
And I remember distinctly being kind of defiant, and you and Mom trying to get me to drink water before I went to bed, and you kind of coaxing me into drinking water because you told me that Batman drinks water.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I do remember that. And going back to Superman 4 for just a minute, because I know this will torture Captain Logan. I want to reenact what he looked like on the front row of that movie theater that night. Lord. That was pretty much it for about 2 hours.
Little kids do that, though. Little kids watch TV and movies like that.
And then just a short time later, we figured out that if we put in cartoons of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that was the best babysitter on the planet for Captain Logan.
Do you remember, speaking of Ninja Turtles, that the first... I mean, I was huge into Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yes.
Like, you and Mom both bought me action figures, and I watched the show all the time.
If we wanted him to eat something, we just put it on a pizza.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, I was huge into Turtles, and you, if I remember right, the first video player we ever bought was not VHS. We tried Beta when Beta was still there, and you bought. No, I'm not remembering this right. We had a VHS player, but one of you or Mom, bought me a Ninja Turtles tape, but it was Beta and we couldn't play it.
That's right.
That's what it was.
That is right.
I wish I still had that tape just to have it. I still have some of my old Turtles tapes though.
And then later when we had I remembered that as a flashback because years later, at one time we owned some flea markets, and we had a Beta machine come in way after the fact, and it actually played, and we sold it on eBay and got a lot of money for it.
Yeah, it's really interesting how some of those mediums like came and gone and didn't quite work. Because then we saw the same thing a few years ago with Blu-ray versus HD disc, and it was exactly the same thing. Yeah,
and there was the laser disc at one time.
Yeah. Although Laserdisc lasted longer. The difference was Laserdisc was the only thing that did that for a while, and then it was eclipsed by DVD once we got them smaller. But the HD Blu-ray thing, it was just like Beta and VHS, where it was one of them is going to win out. You know what I mean? It was kind of a war.
That's happened several times over time.
People ask me all the time how I got into Star Trek. And I have no earliest recollection of Star Trek. I can tell you the first comic book I ever read. I don't remember the first Star Trek episode I watched. I don't remember not having Star Trek around. Do you remember introducing me to Star Trek, or was it just there? Because that's how I remember it.
I believe that you just discovered Star Trek as we were watching reruns. I believe. Now, going back to my childhood, my very first recollection of a superhero episode that I can remember this many years later was TOS. I think it was first season. It was Miri.
Yeah.
And I saw that on television, and I was hooked.
Probably why you like that episode so much more than me.
Probably so. But that's my. And then a couple years later, I liked Star Trek so well, I discovered Lost in Space,
which you told me recently does not hold up.
I went back and looked at that, folks, and yeah, I like Star Trek. TOS.
What were your big TV shows when you were little? When either when Star Trek was on, or just after it run? Because obviously when it was on, you were really little. But because I know Granddad was a little bit into sci-fi. Like
he was.
Like what were the shows that you watched with Granddad?
We watched Lost in Space, although I don't know why he liked that now.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool at the time.
It's probably like you and Sharon watching Power Rangers with us. It was like, why? I don't know why you guys like that show, but they didn't just let us watch Power Rangers. No, they watched it with us, and then we had discussions about it. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. No, Star Trek. My dad loved Star Trek, and actually, and of course, that's Captain Logan's grandfather, who's deceased now. But he actually went with me to the first 2 Star Trek movies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, he went with me.
So you and Granddad got to see Wrath of Khan in the theater.
Yes.
Yeah, Wiki.
And I'll never forget that when we walked out of Wrath of Khan, he turned around and looked at me and he said, "I'm so glad that the last Star Trek movie I didn't see was the first one."
Yeah.
Because we were both bored.
Yeah.
But Wrath of Khan, Ricardo Montalban, that was fantastic.
Although I'm sure motion picture for you was still somewhat of a big deal at the time, even though it was kind of boring, right? Just because it had been so long. I mean, that's what most Trek fans that were there and saw it will tell me that, where they'll say, "Yeah, we all recognize that it wasn't the greatest and that was kind of slow, but it was just a big deal to see all those people back together."
I think that was the big thing, was that what you said. Well, I don't think any of us walked out of that theater and said that was a stinker, we hated it. I think we just said it was slow moving.
Yeah.
And
but nobody had rose-colored glasses where it was like the best thing they'd ever seen.
No.
You didn't have blinders on, yeah.
No. Now, Wrath of Khan was completely different.
Oh, yeah.
That was an action, movie, and again, I mentioned this before, I think Ricardo Montalban was fantastic.
Most people would say that Wrath of Khan was like an instant classic, yeah.
Really was. He had a couple good script writing. He had a couple of great lines in that film, and it was worth the whole money to see or to hear Captain Kirk yell "Khan" at the top of his lungs about 3 times.
So did you collect comics at all?
I did collect some comics, but not to the extent of anything like you have.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I just kind of took whatever geekness you had, and I kind of multiplied it by 12. Yeah.
Mine was Captain America for the most part. I know this sounds funny, but the neighborhood that I was in growing up was huge into Archie comics.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I read some early Archie comics. I thought a few years ago when they did Archie, the one-shot Archie meets Punisher versus
Well,
Punisher.
that wasn't a few years ago now. That was mid-90s now, yeah. I mean, that was...
You're younger than
I know, but I'm just saying. Well, but it's been, like 20 years, yeah.
Yeah, it really has. But I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
that was nostalgic for me because I grew up with Archie comics.
I've got an extra copy if you want it again.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
I sure. It's in my eBay stock, yeah.
But that was cool. You asked me about television shows
Yes.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Huge Twilight Zone fan.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Loved Twilight Zone. And of course, I saw it in reruns because Twilight Zone was like, 50s?
Mm-hmm.
And I was born in
50s into the 60s.
I was born in 64.
Right.
But
was it finished when you were born? Because I forget what the run was exactly. I don't know what year that ended.
I really don't either. It was along that time, I think.
Sure.
65 maybe, something like that. But I don't remember names of Twilight Zone episodes, But the one that I remember that made one of the biggest impacts on me growing up was the episode with Burgess Meredith.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a couple of them. Which one?
The one where he lost his glasses.
Okay, yeah, that's the one that a lot of people point to. And what's funny is that's the one Sarah always points to, too. She loves that show, and that's the one she always talked about. But she always said that the ending of that episode bothers her so much she has a hard time going back and watching it, because it just bothers her. She doesn't like the idea that that guy loses his glasses and he can't read again. Like, ugh.
I just loved, back in that day, I loved Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, me too.
Of course, even as a kid growing up, Burgess Meredith was the Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, a lot of people, and a lot of your viewers may not be old enough to realize that before that, Burgess Meredith was almost a leading man type character.
What sorts of things was he in? Do you remember?
I couldn't name,
because I've never seen anything Burgess Meredith pre-'66. I don't think.
He was in some movies.
Was he in any westerns and stuff, like, or was he in other sorts of things?
He did, as far as I know, what I'd heard of was drama.
Oh, okay.
He had just done some dramas over the years, and of course that Twilight Zone.
That's what DeForest Kelley was known for.
For westerns.
Yeah.
I think, wasn't he one of them that they kind of coaxed into Star Trek because it was going to be a space western?
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a little different from what he'd done, but it's still in his wheelhouse. Yeah.
Right.
Wouldn't you say, for people that haven't taken the chance to go back and watch a lot of Twilight Zone and stuff like that, that Twilight Zone is a really good place to get a sense of like the gallery of some of the greatest TV and movie actors at the time, if you go back and watch them and watch as much of that run as you can, you will see some of the biggest names, and then if you watch anything else from that time period, you'll start recognizing people.
That's exactly right.
And of course, Batman has that too, but Twilight Zone even to a greater extent, because every episode it's an anthology show, so every episode is a different cast.
That's true. It's funny that you mentioned, because another one of the shows that I remember growing up, it's funny that you mentioned the word gallery, because Rod Serling did Night Gallery.
Night Gallery, right.
Later.
Yeah. Which wasn't as good, most people would say. I've never seen it.
Most people would say that.
Did you watch it?
Oh, yes. Most people would say that, and one of the reasons, I think, is Rod Serling complained in later years that he did not have the creative authority on that show like he did Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone was his.
They had kind of a formula, and they try to keep him in that box.
That's exactly right. Did you ever see the Twilight Zone where they did cosmetic surgery on the girl to make her look like everybody else?
No.
And everybody else had pig faces.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never seen that one.
So it was a great example of kind of early racism, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
That she did not fit in because she was beautiful.
And maybe slightly more subtle than Beale and Loki from Sharon.
Yes, but she didn't run as well through the ship as they did.
Right, with flashbacks of buildings burning.
Stock footage.
My favorite, and there wasn't a lot of that in TOS, but that's part of why that was so goofy. Yeah, let this be your last battlefield. And
I don't know if you consider this science fiction or not, but I was a big Munsters fan.
Oh yeah,
I saw them all.
No, certainly it's not science fiction, but yeah, I mean we can totally go into sitcoms a little bit. I know Granddad was into Beverly Hillbillies.
He was into Beverly Hillbillies, and part of that, I don't know if Captain Logan has ever said this.
And it's funny that we didn't even lead with this, where you're from and where we're from, yeah.
That's right, because most of you out there can tell that I don't have the same accent he does. I grew up in the South in the hills of Arkansas. And the Beverly Hillbillies, Granny was from northwestern Tennessee in the hills. And we never really, or possibly north central, but she kind of alludes several times that she's from Tennessee. And we don't really know where Jed Clampett was from, but he mentions Eureka Springs, Arkansas a lot.
Yeah.
So they were definitely, I hate to use the word hillbilly, but they were hill families.
Sure, yeah.
That was just a fact. And so Jay definitely, or Captain Logan.
That's all right.
Sorry. Captain Logan definitely has a tie to that.
Not everyone calls me Captain Logan. Yeah, I mean, and I love the South. I always feel like I'm kind of it's sort of like being, of two worlds, right? Because I lived a lot in Arkansas, but I lived more in Kansas, more in Lawrence, and I always like to say that's why nobody can tell just listening from me where I'm from, because I don't really sound Midwestern, but I've kind of lost any twang I used to have. So
it really has. So
I still say y'all and stuff, but that's about it.
You say y'all on camera
every now and again, and people will sometimes laugh at it.
Will they mention it?
Yeah, they'll be like, "Why do you say y'all?" And I'm like, "Well, because it's part of my part of my background. Yeah, it's in my vocabulary, sure."
So, folks, the next time you think of Captain Logan, think of Jayhawks and grits.
Jayhawks and grits. Yes, I don't like grits though. I know you do.
I'm a big grit fan.
And also, a big difference between me and Dad is that Dad will, of course, mix everything on his plate, and I will, eat things separately, right?
It's all going to wind up in the same place, folks.
Dan has been. This has. Well, that's true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it feels the same getting there. But yeah, my dad and I, or I'm sorry, Dad. This isn't going to be geeky at all, but Dad is a cook and grew up and was in the restaurant business for 34 years, and I grew up in the restaurant business. You're seeing all of that, and that was a really fun business to grow up in. I mean, I liked the atmosphere of the restaurant, and you were always more of a buffet person.
I was.
Most of what you did was buffet. You've done other stuff, but
I've done buffet basically for about 20 years. A lot of buffet, and actually,
didn't you kind of start there?
Yes, I started in buffet. I actually ran a buffet steakhouse in Arkansas when Jay was growing up. And Jay would come down, and at the end of the shift, he would help me some, vacuum the floors or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this or not, but occasionally I would give you money if it was going to take me a few minutes to get done. I would give him money and send him next door to the Kroger store to buy comic books.
That's right. I remember that. And that's actually that little. When I was a kid, I'd like to think of it as a job, But like that little job was how I built some of my early collections, I mean,
that's exactly right.
Dad would pay me every time I would vacuum the store, and I bought a lot of my early video game systems that way. I mean, I bought the Saturn.
Right.
Doing that, and that was not a cheap system either.
I'd forgotten that, but that's right.
Yeah, I bought that. I bought the 32X. That's honestly a lot of why I was so into Sega, because we had Nintendo systems, and then I bought the Sega stuff. Except you had a Genesis early on,
right.
But we played video games as a family quite a bit. That was something we did a lot of.
Boy, did I get beat. That was bad.
My and Dad's big thing was Virtua Fighter.
Yes.
That was our big thing.
Yes.
And I'm the only person I know that played that. And
walking on the Shun.
Walking on the Shun. Remember Shun? Virtua Fighter 2?
Walking on the Shun.
Yeah. He was a drunk boxer.
Yes. That great influence for kids growing up.
But yeah, that's what we did. We played a lot of video games, and you had an NES when I first moved back to, or actually not even when I moved back, just when I was hanging out at your house in Arkansas when I would come down for summers. We would play the NES, and then the next year we came down and suddenly you had a Genesis. You had traded in your NES, you'd gotten a Genesis, and I discovered Sonic, and it totally blew my mind. Yeah,
I'll tell you, one summer we spent hours on end playing a particular game on NES. You remember Cool Spot?
It wasn't. That's not NES. It's Super. But
that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Cool
and
Spot.
It was also on Genesis. I don't remember how you had it. It might have been Genesis, but yeah,
may have been. Well, I know one summer we devoted a lot of hours to
that. I've still got it.
And we devoted a lot of hours to Virtua Fighter.
Yeah. And, obviously we played a lot of the original Mario. And you remember, I know what you're thinking of. So Cool Spot was SNES, but the Othello board game spot was NES.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
That's what I was talking about.
Okay, yeah.
It was like Othello.
We used to play that all the time. It was why pull out a board game when you just put this on? We don't even have to mess with pieces. Yeah, remember that.
We were talking about my childhood, Simon.
Yeah, sure.
I remember growing up going to the beginning of arcades. And the beginnings of arcades when I was growing up, and a lot of you out there my age or older remember this, was just a couple of video games as you walked into Walmart.
Sure.
Or something like that. It wasn't these big, blown-out arcade houses.
And, of course, the time pinball machines were huge.
Pinball, yes. Yes, pinball was huge. But I remember growing up when I was in high school, Galaga was huge in my life.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd talk about that a little bit.
I played a lot of Galaga. It's the only thing I can really say that I was better than him at.
I've still never been able to beat you. I mean, to get to the numbers that you could get to. And yeah, I love Galaga. And I always wanted to do some kind of a tournament or something, but like I know I'd lose because I can't. Yeah. And I still can't beat. I mean, like you don't even play all that much anymore, but I still can't. I can practice all week. Doesn't matter.
When I was in high school, I recorded 1.4 million once.
You said you used to roll machines back when that was a thing.
I rolled Galaga. I've rolled several times, but 1.4 million was my high.
Do you get thrown off if you happen to go? I don't know if you've seen very many. If you happen to like go to a place now that's got one, or like to like a modern arcade, and you play those machines that have just straight up rapid fire that you can't turn off. It's, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the original Galaga, there's spaces in between your shots.
Yes.
But then a lot of the modern machines, they'll just fires. Like, can you play like that, or does that drive you crazy?
I prefer the old style just because that's what I was used to. I can play the other, but the old style, I have literally I worked in a restaurant. I was a busboy dishwasher, and I would get off work, and there was a convenience store down the street that we would all go to, like several of us, 3 or 4 of us guys that worked in the restaurant, would all go to and play Galaga. And I can remember playing Galaga until I would finally quit because I knew I had to wash dishes the next night, and my hands were, because I'd hit that button. So, and of course I'm left-handed. So for those of you that remember Galaga, you have to hit that right-handed a lot. Or
I never even thought about how much different that would be. Yeah.
Or it's actually easier, to reach it with your right hand on a lot of those.
Did you play much Pac-Man? Because I know Mom did.
I played Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. The other Pac-Man I never really got into. Maybe it was a little too early. I hadn't really discovered video games at that point. I mean, I was old enough, but I wasn't into it yet.
I think some people get the idea that there is no difference between them, but
there's a lot of difference. Pac-Man, or Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man Jr.
I never played that.
Yeah, there was a Pac-Man Jr. that I liked. One of my favorite games, as far as arcades went, was Cubert.
Oh, really?
Love Cubert.
I didn't even know that.
Are you familiar with Cubert?
Yeah, I know what it is. I just didn't know you played it.
I mean, he's real obnoxious jumping around.
I never played it, but I know what it is. Yeah. Did you play Donkey Kong or anything like that?
I played some Donkey Kong. Another game that I spent way too much money on growing up was Berserk.
No, I've never played that.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I never played it.
Berserk, you're basically walking through a maze shooting robots. The robots are coming after you. And what's funny is what will kill you in the end is a smiley face. I don't know how we came up with that.
Well, I don't know why there's fruit in Pac-Man, so... Did you ever play the old Tron machines?
Yes.
The light cycles and the...
Yes, I did.
That would have been, what, 83, 84?
I graduated in 82. It would have been around that time.
Around that time,
because
okay.
I want to say Tron was around 82.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. Did you... I know we're jumping everywhere. Did you see Legacy?
I've not seen it.
You didn't see? Okay. I was just curious as to your opinion on it, because... I didn't love it. It was fun, but I wasn't real impressed with it.
If you remember the job I had at that time, I was traveling for a company, and I was really busy during that time. So I saw the commercials, but I never went.
I
almost knocked over your end.
Yeah, then it'll just then we'll need like an ellipsis or something. Let me throw out a couple of just quick like opinion questions to close this
up.
Cool. So I'm just gonna make these up off the top of my head.
And hang on just a second.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed meeting y'all.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah, they've been a great audience.
They have.
Dad, best '60s Batman villain or favorite '60s Batman villain?
Favorite '60s Batman villain. Gorshin.
Is it mine?
Gorshin was so over the top.
Yeah.
I just thought he was incredible.
That was always my favorite.
And a close second would have been Cesar Romero's mustache. Wasn't that a villain?
Did I show you the art? Any of the artwork for the new '60s Batman comic they're doing this summer?
You've not shown me. You told me about it.
Yeah, they colored over his mustache. They did it. Yeah, well, it's fantastic. Favorite TOS episode? That's not Miri. I know Miri's probably still your favorite, or is it?
Miri, for my family beyond me, like I'm talking about for me and my kids, Miri started it all for me, because that was the first thing I can really remember holding on to in memory.
You got a special place for that.
Yeah, as far as science fiction, but as far as TOS episodes go, I know this is not going to sound very unique, but City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Had to be one of the best episodes they made. I love that episode. Also, there's a little place in my heart for Mirror Mirror, because it's the first time I ever saw a mirror universe.
You know, that's my favorite.
Is that your favorite?
Yeah, absolutely, hands down. Yeah.
Spock with a beard, baby.
Do you have a favorite TNG episode?
Yes, yes, I do.
Do you know the name of it?
Yeah, I had to think for a minute. No, my favorite TNG episode is All Good Things.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, my wife
Love
hates
that.
All Good Things.
Is that right?
That's really funny.
Love
yeah.
All Good Things.
You should come on Trexperts and we can talk All Good Things at some point. That'd be fun.
I started smiling because just for the reason I had to think back.
Yeah.
Just for a second, I thought I was thinking Deep Space Nine.
Do you have a favorite DS9 episode?
One of my favorite.
We can just go all the way through it, except for Enterprise. You won't have one for that.
No. That's right. One of my favorite all-time Star Trek episodes, and I know this sounds nuts, but on Deep Space Nine, they did an episode called "Take Me Out to the Holosuite."
It's fun.
I love it.
I also thought it was cool in that we got the anthem of the Federation. Just that they even thought to do that, and everybody's like with their hats in, and we're listening to the anthem of the Federation. I'm like, this is hilarious.
I just think that was so cool because if any of you have seen that out there, and I'm sure you have, the Vulcans kicked our butts, and we were happy.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't understand that.
To manufactured triumph is the end of that episode. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
I love that.
Fine. Do you have a favorite Voyager episode then?
Q who?
No, Q who's TNG. Q is the introduction of Q.
Right.
Q. Is there a Q episode of Voyager you like a lot?
There is, but I can't think of the name.
Okay, well, you had Death Wish, which was the Q that tried to commit suicide, and then you had Q in the Gray, which was the Q Civil War episode.
That's it.
And then you had Q2, which isn't anybody's favorite episode.
No,
so
Q in the Gray. You're right.
Yeah.
Q in the Gray.
Well, it might be somebody's, but that person's strange. I don't know.
I'm sure you're about to hear it for those that it is.
Yeah. You probably says,
hey, Captain Logan, what's wrong with you?
I love that episode. That's
what's wrong
great.
with you?
John Delancey's Kid Connect.
Hey, I'll tell you something that I did, and Captain Logan and I live in different towns. So, although we're in the same state,
yeah,
of confusion. although we're in the same.
Much of the time, yes.
That's right.
You watch Spawn, yeah.
We don't get to see each other as often as you might think.
Yeah.
So, because of our jobs and all. So, recently, I saw something that was just, can I say darn?
Sure, Dad.
It was just the darndest thing I've ever seen in my life. I watched Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, actually.
You haven't
I have not sat down and watched that, yeah.
See, I was hoping we get to talk about it.
I can't believe I haven't done that yet, but no, I haven't.
Oh, my Lord.
It's one of the few comic-based things in the last couple of years I haven't sat down and watched.
That's just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Or was it just
It was
wiggy?
Extremely entertaining.
Yeah?
It was because...
You know Favreau directed that.
Who did?
John Favreau.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know that... I know this, though. For the first 30 minutes, it's a Western.
Yeah,
and it's a pretty darn good Western. It's got Harrison Ford in it, and it's got 007.
Yeah, that guy.
Help me out.
Did you see Skyfall yet?
I haven't seen Skyfall
yet.
yet.
You need to do that. Yeah,
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, thank you.
I'm glad we thought of that.
Yeah, I'm glad you thought of it, because it wasn't coming to me very quickly.
The only thing I didn't understand... Am I going to run the movie for you?
Probably. No, it's all right. Go ahead. It's all right. Go ahead. Well, I don't know what you're going to say, so...
Is it going to run it, folks? At the very end of the movie, or near the end of the movie, of course, the Cowboys have to make a pact with the Indians.
Yeah.
So they can defeat this thing. Mm-hmm. They have to work together. So I love morality in my science fiction, by the way. So that's cool.
Sure.
I like that. So they basically sabotage the mothership. And the aliens have all of this wild technology. They couldn't see them coming on horses? I mean, I just don't get that.
Well, it's sort of like I never really understood how anybody could possibly plant a virus in a ship in Independence Day either. You know, like that was a thing I always wondered about too.
That was fun because you got to see the two main characters smoke a stogie while they're sitting in the hangar. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. I mean, it's a fun movie, but that always cracked me up. Okay, I've got a couple more for you.
Okay.
Favorite horror film? And will you say what I think you're going to say?
My favorite horror film, for years and years, I considered to be my favorite movie.
Started with a P?
Yes, the first Poltergeist.
I thought I had that right. Yeah.
Because that movie started as far as as far as special effects went, it went so much further than it gone before. There's a lot of movies that are out today, and you can say this about a lot of things, but in my opinion, there's a lot of movies out today that wouldn't be what they are without Poltergeist.
Oh, that's absolutely right, yeah. Did you ever see the Simpsons episode that made fun of that?
I did not.
There's this great Simpsons
I've
episode.
not watched a lot of Simpsons.
Mid-90s. I haven't, I mean, I'm not a huge Simpsons fan, but this was one I happened to see when I was a kid, and I'll never forget this. They did, it was one of their Halloween episodes. They always do a Halloween special every year, and they had this part where Homer goes into the light and he disappears, and you can hear his voice in that same effect reverberating throughout the house, right? And he says, "Help, help, I'm somewhere where I don't know where I am." And Marge says, "If you see towels, you're probably in the linen closet again." And just that's pretty never funny. Stopped making me laugh.
That's pretty funny. We
yes,
talked. Well,
sorry, go ahead.
We talked. I don't mean to interrupt. But
no, go ahead.
We talked early on in this conversation that Jay's first experience in a movie theater was Superman 4.
Do you know what yours was?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what was it?
My first appearance, or my
first appearance in a movie theater.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, it's a little presumptuous, isn't it?
And the box office was never the same, folks. No, my first time in a movie theater where I just really, like, maybe as a child I went to see a cartoon or two, but the first real movie, can I say that, I guess, was the original Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, which I've seen, but it's been years and years.
Shelley Winters.
Yeah.
I just absolutely loved that
I forget
movie.
who the leading man was in that. Was it
Ernest Borgnine?
Yeah.
Who hasn't been gone all that long.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that Gene Hackman.
Thank you. That's who I was trying to think of.
Gene Hackman of Superman fame.
Okay, here's a hard one. Here's a tough one.
Black Eyed Peas.
Wrong! No. Okay, here's a tough one. In the last, say, 5 years or so, you can finagle that if you need to. In the last 5 years or so, who is the famous person that has died that was the biggest deal to you? Who's a recent famous person that died that was a thing?
Oh, I know there was a recent one that was big for you.
Yeah, there was for me.
Yeah, I remember that.
You always keep up with that, and I just thought maybe you'd have one.
Wow.
I put you on the spot. I'm
you
sorry.
Really did.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You know, Ernest Borgnine was big for me. I liked everything he did, basically. We may have to come back to that question.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We may have to. I don't know if there's any rock and rollers out there, but this has been several years ago. But several years back, to a heart attack, we lost Robert Palmer.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Well, no, that was almost a decade ago now.
That was huge to me.
Was it really?
Yeah, I was a big
I knew you liked
fan.
Palmer, but I didn't know that his death affected you at all, yeah.
Palmer was also the lead singer of the Power Station.
Yep.
And I really liked him.
One I thought you might say was another one that hit me in a place, and that was Dick Clark.
Dick Clark was, yeah, you're exactly right. Dick Clark was a big one. And
you know, I was a huge fan of $100,000 Pyramid. I mean, obviously Dick Clark did a million things, but I was always a game show guy. That's partly your fault.
Game show.
Yeah,
I love game shows. That's exactly right. That kind of reminded me, too. We're about to date this video when I say this.
Yeah,
but
sure.
we, just in the last few days, we lost George Jones.
Oh, you mentioned that earlier.
Of course, coming from the South, country music is huge. And George Jones was, my parents are gone now, but George Jones was a huge favorite of theirs. So that meant something.
You mind a couple others?
No, go ahead.
Before we quit. Favorite Jack Nicholson quote? From anything.
Okay. What kind of world are we living in when a guy dressed up as a bat gets all of my press? This town needs an enemy. That's great.
Yeah.
And also, do you remember the
my
quote,
favorite,
do you remember
Mars Attacks.
Do you remember the quote he did in As Good As It Gets about noodle salad?
Yes.
That people would go to the beach and eat noodle salad.
Yeah. And
nobody else could deliver that.
No, and then it got quoted a lot after that, yeah.
What was your favorite?
We've still got 2 out of 3 branches of government left, and that ain't bad.
And that ain't bad. And the world was ending, and Tom Jones was singing.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's not unusual. Do you? Okay. One more.
That's funny.
Let's do one more, and
let's do 2 more.
Oh, sure. Okay, fine. Put me on the spot. I don't have 2 more. I'll think of one. Let's jump to a different topic, but one that you alluded to earlier. Favorite arena rock band. Because Dad used to go to concerts like crazy when I was growing up.
I've seen 60.
I mean, just before I was growing up.
I've seen 64 concerts. I'm going to name one I haven't seen.
Wow. Okay. I guess I don't know what you're going to say.
Journey.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, love Journey.
Yeah, you never saw Journey.
And I just recently bought. It's in my car tonight. I just recently bought Electric Light Orchestra's Greatest Hits.
Sarah's a huge.
That's a good time.
Yeah. What
best band I've ever seen?
I was going to ask you that one too. Yeah.
Best band I've ever seen, and this is, I grew up in Arkansas. This is not this is not pandering to where I live now, but it was Kansas.
Oh yeah.
Kansas was fantastic.
I always wanted to see Kansas, and I just never.
You thought
got
I was
to.
going to say Evanescence, right?
Yeah,
because I said Arkansas.
No, oh yeah, that's right. Evanescence is from Arkansas. Well, I didn't know you.
Rock.
I didn't know you, if you even liked Evanescence.
No,
I'm an Evanescence fan, but
yeah.
do you?
But
do you remember
Kansas put on this show.
How many times have you seen REO Speedwagon?
I've seen REO twice.
I've gone at least twice, if not 3 times.
I've seen REO twice. I've seen Heart twice, and you've seen Heart.
Well, I went with you. No, I went with
you
Mom.
went with your mother.
That's right. Yeah.
And I've seen Hall & Oates twice.
Really, I've never seen Hall & Oates.
And one of my favorite bands of all time, I've seen ZZ Top twice.
See, I thought you saw them more than that even,
No,
because I knew you were a big ZZ Top fan.
Once in Kansas City, once in Little Rock.
Did you ever see Genesis?
No, and I would have loved to.
Yeah, me too.
The one that's on my list, that of course I can see her now, I won't be able to see the group, but one that was on my list that I never got to see was the Eurythmics, Annie Lennox.
Really?
I'm a big fan of her.
I didn't even know you were a big Eurythmics fan.
Oh
That's
yeah,
interesting.
I like the Eurythmics.
Okay, you said I have to give you another one, so I will. Actor that you would like if you had your pick of anybody to meet, who would it be, actor wise? Still living.
Yeah, I was going to say before he died, I would have liked to have seen DeForest Kelly.
Oh yeah,
and
me too.
I never got to meet him.
Yeah, that's sad that I never saw him at a
sad.
convention either. And
I never got to meet
and
him.
I didn't get to see James Doohan before he died either.
Now, my wife met him.
Yeah, I remember that.
She met him at a convention years ago.
Now I've seen Shatner and Nimoy now.
Yes, you have.
And I've
seen Lee Merriweather.
Well, me too. Yes, indeed. Yeah, at the same show. And then we were feet from Takei, but I didn't actually talk to him.
That's right. Just
because his line was too busy and I didn't get there. But yeah, do you have an answer?
What was the question?
The question was,
we are chasing them rabbits, folks.
If you could meet any actor still living, who would it be?
Probably just based on influence, I would probably say Nicholson.
Oh, really?
Jack.
Yeah. Cool. I knew you were a big Jack fan.
Yeah, I'm a big Jack fan.
Is there any Jack Nicholson movie you don't like? Not that you've necessarily seen everything. But.
I haven't seen everything, but most of everything I've seen I've really liked. I haven't seen it all, but I've seen quite a bit.
Well, Dad, I hope you can come back sometime.
I hope I can. Hey, I think we should ask Captain Logan one question real quick.
Oh, you can ask me anything you want to. Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Who would you choose to play Captain Logan in a movie?
I get asked that sometimes, and I've never got an answer. Yeah, and Vince is so much easier to cast. Can
I say something real quick? No pressure.
Yeah, no seriously. Pressure.
Reese Witherspoon.
Why is his name not coming to me right now? I actually think I've come up with what I think is the definitive answer. There is such a thing, because that would be such a great role to play, right? What's his name? It's like on the tip of my tongue. The guy who played, I've almost got it, Shawn Ashmore. The guy who played Iceman in X-Men.
Okay.
That's who I'd pick. And then I would have to bulk up to be a little bit bigger, and because he's at least got bigger arms than I do.
Or he'd have to bulk down.
Yeah, because he's playing me, exactly. Yeah, but anyway, but yeah, Shawn Ashmore. That's my answer.
You know what I thought you were going to say?
No,
I thought you would have, and I can't remember his name. I thought you would say.
I was also trying to pick somebody that was close to my age too. Like,
okay. See, I thought you would say the guy that played Lex Luthor on Smallville.
Michael Rosenbaum?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because Sean Ashmore and Aaron Ashmore, his twin brother, were both in Smallville also.
Is that right?
So it's kind of funny, yeah. But
if you remember, when you were in high school, he had a shaved head at one point.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And a lot of people said that you look like him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
or if he was playing you, he would look like you.
He would look kind of like me, yeah. Yeah, but I'm not as cool as Rosenbaum. I just, like, that'd be a step down for Rosenbaum. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's a cool question.
Okay. One more real quick?
Yeah, sure.
And will we done?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is your show. I shouldn't take over.
No, that's fine. No, not at all. Not at all. Go ahead. Good. This is fun.
Favorite, notice how I say this.
Yeah.
Favorite, because I'm going to tell you mine at the end of this.
Yeah, sure.
Favorite 30-minute show, or let me back up. Favorite 30-minute series of all time.
That's not a cartoon?
30-minute series.
Wow, that's rough. Of all time?
It can be a cartoon. I mean, it can be anything. 30 minutes. It can't be an hour. So Star Trek is off the table, folks.
Boy, man, that's rough. I mean, like obviously the obvious thing that comes to my head that I would say if we were talking cartoon, just straight up cartoons, is Batman the Animated Series. But like, boy.
Well, you can say cartoon. Or you can say sitcom. Or
yeah, but I mean, like, it's just so broad. That's really hard.
That's out there, isn't it?
It's hard not to say Twilight Zone because it was half an hour.
That was fantastic.
It's hard not to say Twilight Zone. I think ultimately, if I had to pick what I thought was like the greatest thing, it's probably that. Just because it's influential and
I thought he was going to say Alf.
But I thought of, I mean, like it's tough because you got to compare genres. Like I thought of Pinky and the Brain. I mean, that's a big thing for me, and things like that.
It didn't last very long.
Pinky and the Brain? It lasted decently long for a cartoon show. I mean, Pinky and the Brain was spun out of Animaniacs, so you had plenty of Pinky and the Brain in that show.
Yeah.
And then Pinky and the Brain went at least 3 years. That's a normal run for a cartoon show.
I remember when Animaniacs was playing in the living room.
I mean, Batman the Animated Series only went 3, and then it got rebooted into a 4. Not rebooted, but like reimagined into a 4th. So I mean, like, and that's well remembered.
I remember when Animaniacs was playing in the living room, and the kids were watching TV. And because they loved that show, when Pinky and the Brain would come on, you realized that was going to be next. There would be a cheer from the kids.
Oh, it was always a big deal.
Pinky and the Brain.
What's yours?
I'm going to totally throw you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
My favorite 30-minute show of all time.
That's a great question, by the way.
Is 60 Minutes. Because look how long it lasted. Oh, that's an hour.
But it's called...
It's 60
minutes.
Wow.
Well, the question was great. I'm not sure if the way it was formulated made a great deal of sense. Because what I thought you were going to say is I thought you were going to blow my mind. Did you know that a show called 60 Minutes does not last... It's okay, Dad. Everybody makes mistakes.
That's pretty funny.
That's great. Okay, so what is it then?
That's pretty funny.
Dad's favorite hour show.
Favorite hour show is 60 Minutes.
60 Minutes.
Probably...
Pretty self-explanatory, really.
That's right. Probably, I'd have to say The Monsters.
Yeah, I need
and
to
something
love
else,
the
the folks out there don't know this, but you know this.
Yeah.
I own every Gilligan's Island episode.
Oh, yeah.
So I love Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island.
I love Gilligan's Island.
I never understood that. I don't dislike it or anything. I just like...
Oh, no, I love Gilligan's Island. But it can't happen today.
No, it certainly can't.
You'd be found.
Well, that's why in Lost, the island had to move.
To outer space.
No, just move.
Oh, just
move. Yeah, it jumps around. Yeah, it moves. It moves around, yeah.
I never saw Lost.
Oh, you'd like it. You really should do it up. It's one of my favorite shows.
Someone go home, and I'm going to watch a 30-minute episode of 60 Minutes.
Well, on that note, thanks. I think this is the best possible place to end.
I'll never be invited back.
No, you absolutely will. And I like to bring you back and talk about some different sorts of topics. Streamline something, pick something.
Maybe we can cook
definitely
something.
Yeah, that'd be fun too. Maybe we could do a show where you and Doomsvince cook something. Have you ever seen Cooking with Doomsvince?
I've not seen that yet.
Oh, I'll have to show you some Cooking with Doomsvince.
Maybe we could call it Cooking with Doomsvince in 60 Minutes and make it a half-hour show.
We'll make it a half-hour show. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I'll bring Dad back again, hopefully sometime soon. And anyway, if there's anything you'd like to see me and Vince or me and somebody else talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Joe.
And we'll see you later. Vince, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think so, Cap. But how do you get clowns to shave their legs?
Well, I'm not sure, but what I was thinking is, I think our viewers should join the Geeks United Club.
The Geeks United Club? That's a terrific idea. When they join, they get lots of stuff.
Do they really? Can you jog my memory?
Stuff like this handy-dandy manila envelope in which we ship all your stuff.
That's pretty cool, but it's not the coolest part. They also get this DVD that has 2 full hours of their favorite Geekvolution content. They get to pick what videos go on here, and they also get a custom episode of Geeks Not Nerds just from us to them.
That's pretty cool. They also get a Geeks United membership card on which they can put their name and check as to whether or not they will be a Logan tier or a Doomsayer.
You know, I would check Logan tier, but that would make me a fan of myself.
I think I'm gonna check Logan tier because I like to be unpredictable.
Fair enough. They also get a random comic from the Comic Vault. Now, the Comic Vault is very vast and ominous, and that means that the chances of you getting this particular comic are not that great, but it could be anything. It might be this, but it might be all kinds of other comics, too.
We also have a much longer publication in the form of Captain Logan's novel, The Girl with 7 First Names. It is a comedic science fiction novel. Check it out.
They also get this letter from Doomsvince. I've read it. It's appalling.
He's hugely insulting. Oh, they get one more thing.
Oh, what's that, Vince?
They can request a rewind.
Or a Vince Versus.
Ooh.
Yeah, for us to review sometime during the next year or so. And you get all of that for $20, Vince.
$20? That's a lot of entertainment, folks.
Yeah, all you gotta do is go to wearegeeksnotnerds.com and click on the Geekvolution store, or you can just go to the link in the description of this video.
It's a great idea. We'll see you on your envelope.